Okay, how's everybody doing? Sorry if I look very tired. I think I always look very tired, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm recording this video because it's easier to share rather than type, I suppose. And this segment is simply about why I choose a 6-day view of creation and not the 1,000 year, each day is 1,000 year, or 10,000 years, or millions, or what have you, or even the poetic sense. And again, I used to believe the whole 10,000 year thing, like it was 10,000 years, maybe 100,000 years. I never believed it was in the millions, but whatever. And this is where I got turned around one day. I was reading scripture in John, and it's talking about Jesus turning water into wine. Probably everybody, any Christian knows this story. I mean, everybody knows about this. Even I feel like atheists know this story. But Jesus turns water into wine, and just like I'm sure many of us who are believers, all of a sudden I had a aha moment, like a revelation, and I was like, whoa, never thought about that. And it's simply this. Jesus was at a wedding with his mother. All of a sudden, the wine has run dry. There's no more wine for the guests. And his mother asks him, Jesus' mother asks him, hey, why don't you go do something about that? Why don't you go do something? She didn't say turn water into wine. She just said, make a miracle, basically. And Jesus said, hey, woman, it's not really my time yet. It's not really time to do it. Now, I truly, firmly believe Jesus, the only reason why he did this, now there's two, and this was the aha moment, but the main reason why he did it was because he had to obey his mother. He was still under his mother's authority, and his mother asked him to do something. He didn't want to do it, but he had to obey her because that is Jewish custom, and Jesus is without sin and blameless. So let's not forget that. That's probably the main reason. Now, but I find this incredible revelation inside of this one day. Jesus takes something from more or less nothing and creates something out of it. So what am I saying here? Water, the basic essence of everything in life, right? H2O, some of the simplest ingredients. I guess hydrogen would be simpler, but whatever. And he creates wine from this. Fascinating, right? We know from Scripture, Jesus imitates his Father. John 5:19. So Jesus explained, I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing by himself. He does only what he sees the Father doing. Whatever the Father does, the Son also does. There's a lot of different variations. I just read the New Living. So Jesus completely mimics his dad. And that's his only example, right? Remember, God made man. So what does he do? The very, very, very first miracle, the very first thing we ever see Jesus do, wasn't healing a sick man, wasn't blind, casting out a demon, none of that. It was the very first thing he saw his Father do. He created something from more or less nothing. We can see this from Genesis 1-2 about the waters, right? The waters were the first thing, and then God started creating after that, and water was the first thing we saw. In the creation sequence, it would seem, light, I suppose, light and then water. But anyways, so now come back to the wine. The master, he said, this is John 2 verse 9. When the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom. And he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. You have kept the good wine until now. This beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory. Same glory of the Lord. And his disciples believed in him. 3-part reason, I suppose, of why he turned the water into wine. There's your third part. The kicker is this. There's no wine connoisseur, none to my knowledge, that will say the best tasting wine was made in 5 minutes. None are going to say that. They're going to say the best tasting wine was aged 100 years, 50 years, whatever. It was aged. Yet today in our community, we're arguing because of science. And we're saying, science disproves the Bible. No, it absolutely doesn't. Science is always playing catch up with the Bible, in my opinion. And we keep seeing that time and time again. Earth was flat. Oh, Christians believe there's... No. That was people saying and power tripping and forcing the earth to be flat. There's no evidence in the Bible for this. You could say the corners of the earth, I suppose, and maybe stretch that to be the four, being that the earth is flat. But yet the Bible does say that the earth is round, and it knew so before scientists did. Going back to the wine. God can easily make it look like this earth is a gazillion years old, or the universe, or what have you. If he can make wine, Jesus make wine appear to be the best tasting wine in a matter of a few minutes. This is personally why I chose the 6-day literal sense of Genesis. Now we can argue Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 and then the whole man and woman sequence and stuff like that. I'm not teaching Genesis right now. I'm literally just telling you why I choose to believe in the 6-day literal sense, is because the very first miracle we see Jesus do was the very first miracle we see God did. He created something from basically nothing, or water, and turned everything from that. And he made it look like it was ancient. He made it look like it had been running shop for a long time. And then Jesus turns water into wine, the best wine. The master was like, whoa, this is the best. Why'd you save it for last? You brought this stuff out first. Well, he thought it was some pretty good wine, which means that it was probably tasted like it was very old, to make it look and appear that this wine had been saved and preserved for this person's wedding for quite some time. That's all I got. That's why I believe in the 6-day literal sense. Sorry if it went longer than I want, and sorry if the cuts seem choppy. It's because my camera is not cooperating. My apologies. I hope this benefits some of you. We can debate and argue the words of Yom, the day, the word day in Hebrew, and we can debate all that stuff. Like I said, I'm not trying to get into the interpretation of Genesis right this moment. Maybe another time. I'm really tired, and I gotta go pick up my daughter's room because she threw all of her clothes on the ground. Have a good night. Be blessed, you guys. Peace.